Right.
Let's
all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any changes for the agenda? You had added something at the last minute. Is that on?
Yes, Travis. And I think Carol Lapham wants to do a finance report too.
Oh, yeah, we talked, so we're adding Travis and we're adding Carol for a financial report. Anything else? Otherwise, motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda's approved. Minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. They look good.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes approved. Public comment. Anyone? Yes. Yeah, come on. I was just going to admit, Brian spoke to me, wanted to make a correction from the last meeting. Is that correct?
Well, this has to
Set
do
the-
with a letter that was sent to us from an attorney.
Okay.
The bullying continues. We recently received a letter from Erickson's and Krukow's attorney, Ms. Lear, accusing us of defamation and demanding an apology to the county board. I did make one mistake. That was to list an incorrect date for one of the 3 hearings in which the reapplication was debated at the Planning Commission. I listed 7/25/13 instead of 6/20/13. I apologize to the board for that and want to correct the record. As you know, we have always attempted to be very accurate. I do not, however, apologize for my statements about what the record shows. The Sheehan mine had a CUP for 12 years. A violation was discovered. That violation was an expansion beyond the original perimeter described in the CUP. The permit was terminated, and they had to begin the application process over for a new CUP. 3 hearings were held by the Planning Commission, and eventually the county board voted to issue a new CUP. This validates that the original CUP was terminated. Why would they apply for a new CUP, pay a new application fee, have multiple public hearings, and have the board vote to issue a new CUP if the old one was not terminated? The following are direct quotes from the minutes of those hearings. The zoning administrator said, "This is for a new permit because of the expansion. It was discovered that the mine had expanded beyond the perimeter." When asked if they could blast without a permit, he said they could not. When asked if this was a continuation of the original permit or a new one, he said, "This is a brand new application." He said, "A new application and application fee is required." The Environmental Services Director wrote a letter dated 4/13/13 to Mr. Krukow. It said, "Future plans may include expansion of the mine through a permit process or closure of the mine and reclamation of the property to suitable use." In that hearing, the chair of the Planning Commission said, "This would be setting precedent for any future permits that become non-compliant." This would be setting precedent for any future permits that become non-compliant. I think this validates our claim that there is in fact precedent for terminating a permit based on a single violation. The mine was also required to make a fresh start with a clean slate. This is the appropriate action for the Erickson CUP. We did not defame them. They defamed themselves with their bullying behavior. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, quick.
I'm Sue Van Gorp from Yucatan Township. There seems to be some confusion about whether or not the long history of violations and lack of enforcement can be considered in the determination of how to rule on the Erickson CUP. Of course it can be. Can any of you even think of an example of while ruling on legal issues, the history would not have an impact? The letter saying what should be submitted for consideration issued by Mr. Squires did not limit input to the road issue. It limited input to relevant information. Certainly that includes the history, the court record, and the ordinance itself. The only arguments Ericksons were able to put forward is that this is part of their livelihood. Well, I have maintained a professional license for 35 years. If I had broken the law or been unethical, I would have lost that license, and arguing that it was my livelihood would not have changed that outcome. The Ericksons want to limit the discussion to the road issue. Well, let's consider just the road issue by itself. Here are the facts about that road. The road was known to be in violation for 5 years by the county and the Ericksons. We know this because we informed them about it. They continued to use the old road for mining after the judge ruled it in violation. At time 1 hour and 30 minutes of the hearing, Mr. Squires says the judge's ruling was effective when issued. No grace period. As of today, they still have never used the new road. They usurped the authority of elected officials to determine the appropriate outcome of the judge's ruling, instead acting in their own best self-interest. Isn't it interesting that at a site visit to view the new road, they would not allow the new road to be walked on or observed close up? What do you think they might be hiding? The road is dangerous to highway traffic, and they consistently refuse to use signage at the ingress and egress as required by the ordinance. Based on the precedent of the She in mind, the violation should result in termination of the CUP so that a new permit can begin fresh, a clean slate with appropriate conditions. Each and every time the Ericksons violate the ordinance, they violate their neighbors' rights and the rights of the public. Let's get right with the law. If not now, when? Thank you.
All right. Travis?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here tonight to get a permission from the Commissioners to enter into the grant agreement with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety for the Towards Zero Death campaign. We do this every year. I'm asking for it to be for the period of 2 years, from October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2019. The Towards Zero Death campaign focuses on DWI enforcement, seatbelt enforcement, speed enforcement, distracted driving enforcement. We can also use some of those funds for putting an extra dispatcher in dispatch to help out with the heavy load of radio traffic coming through. So I'm requesting a resolution stating that we can partake in this grant.
How much is the grant for?
Well, it's not guaranteed, but we're requesting $13,400. Last year we received $10,075.
Now that, your estimate is 13.4 over 2 years or 1 year?
That would be for the first year.
Okay.
Yep.
So then the second year would be
Yep.
an additional.
Having the resolution effective for 2 years will, we could do it for 1 year, but it'll avoid me having to come back before you guys and getting another resolution.
Do we have a designated stretch or with any signage or anything? Because I know Highway 52 from Rochester to the cities does.
Sure. The way it works is Deputy Garrett is in charge of our Towards Zero Death campaign, and what he'll do is he will pick a stretch of highway or county road within the state of or within Houston County, and then we'll put up signage, basically with the high visibility notice that we're out there and we're patrolling, and it kind of depends on what kind of campaign we're doing. If it be seatbelt or DWI, it might be countywide. It might be narrowed down to one stretch of highway.
Well, I personally would hope that it would impact enforcement, because my reference to Highway 52 says zero death corridor, and if you're going 65, you're in the way. I mean, people can't even read it. They're going so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, without enforcement, the other one is, after you read that sign, and then a little while later, you read headlights for safety, and then I count the number of cars that I meet that don't have their headlights on, and it's, so, good for the signage, but let's enforce what the sign says.
Yeah,
so.
seeing traffic stops out there is probably the best thing you can do. So
Yeah.
and I know that when we're doing these campaigns, we're very active. We're out there and
Okay.
we're stopping cars and trying to make those roads safer.
Good. All
I'll
right.
move for the 2-year grant.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Travis? Yes. Do you want to take that?
Oh, yes.
Tess?
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have two matters on the agenda tonight. The first is the appointment of a county assessor. You have, the information has been forwarded to you regarding the finalist that was interviewed and the total scoring that was received, as well as the recommendation by the search committee. So it is with, pursuant to Minnesota Statute 273.061, I'm recommending the approval of appointment of Cynthia Creswell Hatley as assessor to fulfill the unexpired term of the previous assessor. Said term to expire on 12/31/2020. This is a MAPE banded C53 position. I would like to amend the request subsequent to meetings that I've had with the candidate from step 4, making a recommendation to step 5. The individual has has nearly, let me get my notes out here, 18 years experience. I was supplied and verified that there are several counties who have recently hired assessors between 15 and 16, all hiring at rates. And some of these folks with less experience and not even Santa at rates that are higher than what we had offered. This is a 9-point scale, and so I'm recommending step 5.
Nine-point scale, it means there's 9 steps
Yes,
total.
9 steps, pardon me. It is long day.
How long does it usually take to complete the 9 steps? When would be?
It's a step a year.
Step a year.
I would just mention that I had a discussion with Tess concerning this. She showed me some documents and some other things we talked about, and I came away supportive of step 5 based on our meeting. But if you have other questions or concerns, please.
The candidate has been in the interim position. We've had an opportunity to assess, if you will, her ability to step into the position and at a higher level, and has actually taken the leadership on initiating many practices and efficiencies within the office to bring the appraisal off the assessor's office
up to what I would say are contemporary standards that you would be very pleased with.
I'll make a motion to approve Cindy Cresswell as our new county assessor.
That's step 5.
That's step 5, I guess, yeah.
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Commissioners. And for clarification, Madam Auditor, I'm pointing out that it is for the expiration, for the balance of the unexpired term. So,
Okay.
thank you. The next matter on the agenda is the appointment of the mechanic for highway. As you know, not that long ago, I came forward requesting the recommendation to hire a mechanic. Since that time, the mechanic withdrew prior to the effective date. The committee met again and interviewed other candidates and has since made a recommendation to hire Shane McCabe as a mechanic. That's a B242 Step 1. Effective June 12th, conditioned on successful completion of a background check. And Mr. McCabe's background, he comes to this position with a Class A CDL. Also has been working for J.B. Holland and doing as a field technician and mechanic since August of 2013. So he has some very good experience. I know the committee was very pleased with the interview and very pleased with the reference checks.
You just need a motion to approve the hire?
Please. Oh, this would be, you know what? This would be effective June 12th.
I'll second it.
So, did you make a motion?
I thought
Sure, I'll
just
make a
made the
motion to hire Shane
Oh,
McCabe.
I'm sorry.
Shane
That was a
McCabe.
motion.
Yep, as a mechanic.
You second
I'll
that?
second it. I thought it was a motion, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
he was kind of a question. Anybody have any comments or questions?
You know, I thought when we went through this, was it last week when we hired that
I think it's a couple weeks
we
ago.
only had one person that was qualified, and that's the one we offered it to? So are these
So
other
what
interviews
happened-
qualified?
Yes, what happened was, when we looked at that, our initial requirements that we were asking for was let me back up here, I have too many papers in front of me. Was a Class A license. We are also asking for a technical degree in diesel and heavy equipment repair and 4 years of diesel and heavy equipment. Okay. The job description allows us, if you will, to do equivalent experience. The only person at the time that met every one of those requirements was one person. That was, so we interviewed that one. If that didn't work out, then we'd look at the alternate experience. This person meets all the criteria, more than the criteria, with the exception of he does not have his technical college degree is not in diesel and heavy equipment. However, his experience since 4 years experience with J.B. Holland, it was just 4 years' experience with J.P. Holland, we determined was equivalent or greater. But it was a second round after we looked at all those that fit every slot. His degree was in, I believe, sports, small sports powered vehicles, sports vehicles.
So we didn't have to re-advertise it
No,
looking for
ma'am.
the, okay. Just,
And three individuals had, all the balance of the candidates had a mixture of experience. We looked at all of them. We invited all of them to interview because at that point we were looking at alternate mix. 2 out of the 3 accepted the interview, and this person was the one that was recommended by the committee.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Tess.
Okay, just one brief two brief updates, if you will. In regards to the mechanic position, Brian and I will be bringing forward a recommendation to the board, I believe, at the next meeting. The mechanics come with their own tools. And Brian and the candidate will then do a tool inventory and determine make a recommendation for a monthly stipend for those tools. And then secondly, I just want to point out we are going forward. Work is being done with regards to the grant funds that we have. We have a kickoff meeting, if you will, scheduled for June 6th between 1 and 3. This kickoff is to, we're really getting started in earnest with the work to be done on the reuse study, the economic feasibility, what options might be. We're looking for champions in the community, among community leaders, business leaders, etc. So this kickoff is to see what kind of interest we have out there and folks that will help us go forward with because we do need community buy-in to really be successful at getting holding these information sessions, etc. And so we're going to start off with a brief tour of the jail, old jail, and then end up in the EOC. Invitations are being going out to the mayors of Houston, Spring Grove, La Crescent, Caledonia. They may have staff that they would like to have attend. They may have particular interest themselves. Leaders in the tourism area, Chamber of Commerce, EDA, Historical Society, etc. So we're trying to get a group together, and hopefully then we'll get a task force that has some commitment to the process that can assist us in making sure this is successful and bringing forward the options that we will present to you.
If somebody showed interest, should they contact you? Can be in say a committee member, somebody in the community says, you know,
Sure, you can direct them to show up at because we're calling it a kickoff right now, trying to see where the interest is. And Deb Ray of the Historical Society is assisting us with that. Courtney Berge is also been very instrumental, the EDA officer. And so if you know of any other folks I could send a personal invite to, I'd be very happy to do that.
Great.
And I'm encouraging you folks to show up if you have an interest.
and you said June 6th?
June 6th between 1 and 3.
So anytime you can walk in between 1 and 3. When's the jail?
Well, not any, I mean, you can walk in anytime, but you may not be at the top of the conversation. I mean, because there's going to be a brief tour of the jail, followed up by hopefully some intense conversations about the task force. This is led by Collaborative Design Group, Craig Milkert, principal. And there'll be a couple other people from his team that'll be there as well, including the person that's doing the, has some considered background in economic studies for reuse.
Thank you. Folks, we have now a closed session scheduled, so ask that we clear the room until that has been held.
Do we need a motion for closed session?
Yes.
I move for a closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to come out of closed?
I'll move we come out of closed session.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion to reopen the meeting, I guess.
Motion to reconvene the meeting?
Second.
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 All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, somebody want to?
I'll go down.
I can run over there.
You can remain in comfort. I need the exercise. I didn't get my round of golf in today.
At ease.
That's what you get from at the end of the table. I forgot to get my drink of water when I was out there. That's the biggest.
All right, the meeting is back in session, and because he could not be with us tonight, we have Attorney Yacht on the phone, and he's going to make a summary statement.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. The board by consensus has instructed me to inform our MCIT attorney, land use attorney, Jay Squire, that the Squires not to appeal Judge Storino's April 2017 order denying his motion to dismiss in the City of Houston's appeal of a variance request. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Could you repeat, I couldn't hear that.
By,
From the minutes or something, because it was really hard to.
Hard to-
Yeah, I'm sure
okay,
it was.
I'll try to
Turn it off.
summarize it. By consensus, we agreed to not have Attorney Squires on the behalf of the Board of Adjustment appeal the decision of Judge Storino in the case of Houston versus the feedlot request, or with it. Is that
Did you
somewhat
understand
capsule?
what that was about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay? Make sure there's understanding and then not worry about it.
Right. Versus,
Landowner.
Yeah.
yes.
The city of Houston prevailed, is that?
No.
No, it'll go back now. We just want to, we're not appealing Judge Storino's decision to allow,
How much can we explain?
yeah.
Explain it?
Yeah. I don't want to get into any more detail because I don't want to misspeak, but that's in general what occurred, so.
Are we done with
Yep.
county attorney?
Yes.
Thank you, Sam.
No, he's gone.
Oh, he's gone?
He's gone.
Okay. Didn't know you cut him off. Or someone cut him off. Do you want to do Carol?
Yeah, Carol, are you ready?
Yes, it's actually just a short review. We're into the month of April reports, and we're now into May, and we have the property taxes being collected. So we do have some departments that are over on the percentage of their budget, and we have others that are under. But page, if you look at your finance report, page 25 and 26 kind of show the picture. We started out the year with $14.9 million, and at the end of April, we're at 13.5. And that has to do with the fact that fund number 73 has $3 million in it of taxes collected that haven't been distributed out to the funds. So even though each individual fund may not look that good, because that money will be distributed at the end of May, we're pretty much on track.
Good.
So that's pretty much in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, we're doing okay.
Yes, yes, we are.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Anybody have questions for Carol?
We will be looking at some budget adjustments because we are showing that $198,000 budget deficit, and there are some areas that I found that need to be corrected, changed. So we'll be looking at those also.
Okay. Thank you. All right, action items. Approve claims, human service, and license center disbursements.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims, Human Service and License Center. They look good.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Number 2, adopt resolutions approving maintenance and grooming applications for A, the La Crescent Snowmobile Trail, the Houston Money Creek Snowriders Snowmobile Club Incorporated, and Gopherland Snowmobile Club.
Can we do that as one motion?
Sure.
I'll make a motion to approve the maintenance and grooming applications for those 3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approve abatements.
Make the motion to approve abatements.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have policy for filling the Board of Adjustment and Planning Commission vacancies.
Should we take one at a time, you think, Jackie? One separately?
I think that's probably a good approach.
Discuss one first and come up with something. Pick one.
Could you speak up, please?
Oh,
Oh, are our mics even on?
Yeah, they're on.
No, Scott's
Nope.
there.
Mine wasn't on, sorry. Should we take just one, either the Board of Adjustments first? And Jack said yes, he thought we should do them separately. And,
Do you have them in front of you?
yep,
Yeah, go ahead.
yep. Start with the Board of Adjustments. We've looked at 3 different options. First option, been a little while since I looked at this, so would be you want to help me, Teresa? You went through these a little more recently than me.
The only difference between the 3 options is number 5. The first option, one includes an interview, or I could read the whole thing, but the applicants with the most selections with a maximum of 2 applicants per vacancy will be interviewed. The second option would be forward to a committee consisting of 2 commissioners chosen by vote of the board, the zoning administrator, environmental services, and they will make a recommendation to the board. And the third option is probably the simplest, where it just says that all applications will be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners. Each board member shall review and select 2 applicants. So it's just that number 5 that had, the rest was all the same.
We
I
changed
need
it
to-
to 1 though, right? Select 1 applicant, right?
Right.
1, yes.
Now-
Oh, see, I have my
Yeah,
original
yeah,
pieces.
yeah.
They all
Yeah.
said 1, not 2.
And I was thinking about that a little bit more, and I should have thought a little more 2 weeks ago before I said that. And I suppose the right way to do this would be to make a motion to adopt option 3 with one change. And that change would be in number 5 okay, it says here, all eligible applications shall be forwarded, excuse me, to the Board of Commissioners with sufficient time to review. I would change the next sentence from each board member shall review and select one applicant per vacancy to each board member shall review and rank order all applicants. Now, the reason for that, but I'll make the motion, see if it draws a second, and then I'll talk about it.
Okay. Jess isn't here, but she did bring that up when I first put these out, that she thought we should have at least some kind of ranking system to it. She said we don't have to have a 100-point system because they're appointments, we're not hirees. You're not dealing with people in the service or anything else, so you have to have a strict point system.
Well, I'm sure.
Do you want to second Fred's motion that we should?
I'll second Fred's motion.
Okay, then continue
with the
discussion.
contingency on option 5 of a point system so that we can tally each person's and have.
And I'm assuming Tessa's logic on that is if anything went to court, you have justification why instead of just, I like them better.
Right.
You know, having a reason.
Well,
Right.
yeah,
My
that's
assumption.
implicit that there needs to be a reason.
Right.
We would be reviewing the completed applications before we do our rank order. And then we'd have to take reasons from the answers to the questions in order to rank order, I would assume. And the reason for doing it that way is simply that then if you do it that way, it becomes simply a computational situation. You take all the variousness sort of back and forth discussion out of it, and there it is, and candidate A got 17 points and candidate C got 24 points. Obviously, you're going to go with candidate A over C because you're ranking 1 through 5. You could rank them 5 through 1, and the highest number would be your first choice, whatever.
Okay.
But it would be just a computational thing then, and you can do what you want to do with that. Then the board obviously would have to act on it.
Okay. So is everyone clear with what Fred's motion is then? Okay. Then all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Are we gonna have to go through the, I'll look it up now too. If anything, nothing changes zoning ordinance wise.
No.
Pardon me?
Nothing changed zoning ordinance wise.
No,
Um,
I looked that up and it doesn't affect the ordinance itself.
By,
It doesn't change our zoning ordinance, it's just a
policy.
That's-
My understanding is that this has really nothing to do with the ordinance. It's just,
doesn't.
this is our
Selection process.
policy, vacancy procedures policy.
That's how I'm interpreting it.
Same
Yes.
difference.
And I would assume
Yeah.
it's the same, but I know in our zoning it is tied with like term limits and stuff like that. I just want to make sure that nothing's
That doesn't-
written,
it doesn't affect that.
The only
well,
question,
it's got said in there it says 1 3-year term with consecutive 3, but it doesn't talk about a review. It doesn't talk about having a sitting out before you can reapply, which the ordinance does. So just to try and stay consistent between the two. And maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm just, that would be my only.
I should have talked about that, and I was just thinking when we were working here, I was just thinking about number 5 And number 6, of course, is what you're referring to. The 2 top candidates shall be voted on by the full county board for a 1 3-year term with a maximum of 3 consecutive 3-year terms. And that, of course, doesn't need to be there because it's in the ordinance.
Right. Right.
So
This
that's
is
kind
just
of,
a policy.
that's just kind of, it's
Okay.
doubling up.
Yeah.
Not necessary. It could actually be just left out, but.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is do you leave
The motion's
that,
there now.
but I'm just saying, do you leave that sentence out?
Right, we
You know, the
can,
whole 3-year,
right, we
that's
take
covered
that
under
completely
here.
out of six.
'Cause otherwise, then there's no confusion of.
Yeah,
Well, it doesn't say
basically.
here, you know.
Do you have it in front of you?
Hey, you want to make an amendment to the motion to leave number 6 out? That would,
Well, I don't
that
think
would
you want to leave
help.
all of 6 out,
No,
you just want to
just
leave,
that portion.
Yeah, okay.
right.
Um,
Or-
Yeah, that's right.
Right, at,
Yeah, that with, and the sentence with term.
appointment will be made by vote of the full county board.
Yeah, just.
Period.
Yeah, the 2 top, yeah, can't vote on the
Yeah,
full.
yeah, after board, put the period after board.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be a wonderful amendment.
Just to stay consistent.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, yeah, that's what it says, so. yeah.
And then basically the planning commission is
Do we need to
executive.
vote on this one
Whoops.
first?
We did.
Robert?
We did.
Oh, we did?
Yep.
Okay.
The planning commission has the same options, 1, 2, and 3, basically. Option 1, number 5, all eligible applications shall be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners with sufficient time for review. Each board member shall review and select 1 application per vacancy. The application with the most selections with a maximum of 2 applications per vacancy will then be interviewed. Interviews will be conducted by the interview committee consisting of 2 commissioners chosen by the vote of the county board, the zoning administrator, excuse me, the environmental service director, and 1 planning commission member chosen by vote of the county board. That's option 1. Number 5, option 2, all eligible applications shall be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners with sufficient time for review. Each board member shall review and select 1 application per vacancy. The names of the applications with the most selections with a maximum of 2 applications per vacancy will then be forwarded to a committee consisting of 2 commissioners chosen by a vote of the county board, the zoning administrator, environmental service director, and 1 planning commission. Is this exactly the same?
They are the same.
Okay, what changed between option 1 and 2 was,
The fact that they don't need a interview by the full board. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's not true.
Option 1, wait a minute.
There's no difference between them, is
no,
there?
I think that got copied correctly, but 1 was to have basically all the interview in front of a full board. Number 2 was to select 2 board members
And then
and
have the committee
have a
do the
committee
interview.
do the interviewing. We see the applications first, and we see all applications.
Right.
And number 3 was to do, with all 5 board members get the applications and rank their selections total rank system.
Okay, what's the board's feeling? Somebody,
I would move the same thing for planning commission that I moved for the Board of Adjustment with the
Right.
change that was an amendment on the planning commission. Just get it right the first time this time, so we don't have to mess with it a bit.
is there a second?
I'll second that also.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hi. Quick question. When going forward, the concern, the only concern that pops up is obviously small town, people know people, somebody sees a name and they go, well, I just don't like that person. Is there, I mean, to keep things honest and fair, should there be if we're gonna truly judge based on criteria and not have somebody say, well, you just picked them because they're your buddy, when we do this, should we have names redacted and base it off of, applicant 1, 2, 3? Because that's my only concern without going through an interview is if, you know, all of a sudden you get two commissioners that say, well, we know those people, we don't like those. And then all of a sudden people go, well, you didn't pick them because you didn't like them. You know, if you don't really have based on an interview, it's just on the application, that would be my only concern just to bring up is, do we do it anonymously?
I think there's something good and bad to that. I mean, you do know people by a reputation, and maybe you know
Yeah, true,
them
there's the
personally,
exact
and
opposite
you
of
know
that, true, yeah.
that so-and-so, you've known him your whole life, but he could have something on a resume.
Yeah.
But it looks really great, but you actually know him as a person that's
Right.
dealt with them in the community a lot.
Yeah, that's true, it goes both ways.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be tough. It makes it tough not to be able to say, yeah,
I
no
think
matter
that
what, you're gonna have
you've got-
something, because you're gonna know some people, and you're not gonna know other people. And
Well, we're assuming, I guess, and maybe we're just assuming that board members would be experienced enough in this kind of thing to just look at the documents that they're reviewing and make their decision based off those questions. That's what we're supposed to do.
Well, and I think, I think the key here is, again, integrity.
right.
Yeah.
I think
You know,
that's really it.
if we can't do it based on qualifications, then, you know, if we make we shouldn't be sitting here if we can't.
Right, if you can't be
That's
honest
right,
and
that's
try to
right.
put the best people in there that you think would be the best for everybody.
Well, and Scott makes a good point too, there is a reputation factor on both sides. You can say, I
Yeah.
know this person,
Could go
they've
this
done
way,
this,
could
they've had
go that way.
experience, yeah, so.
Yep, but you might know that they have.
Or
you know,
that they're
maybe
really
they-
bad,
maybe
like-
right, or maybe their schooling doesn't show so much,
Yeah.
but you know they've been farmers for 50 years and.
Well,
they've-
and these things that you know should be relevant to the
Yeah.
position. You know, I mean, you know, I don't really care if he dumped his prom date 50 years ago.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, now here's one other quick question, just to air it out there, cover all of our bases before we get going. What is thoughts on how we're gonna go forward if, for instance, we each go to Tessa's office and look at the applications and rank them and leave them there. But all of a sudden, when it's my turn and I see somebody that it's like, hey, I should let the other commissioners know. Or say Fred or Teresa or somebody says, hey, you know, this person, are we gonna get a chance to kind of have a little bit of a deliberation?
I was
I guess-
wondering about that too, you know, how long, should you have time to be able to check stuff out? Maybe you never heard of the person.
Well, that's the other thing
Or
too,
you-
or just if you had a
or-
question about it,
Right,
or,
his degree is in this, and I don't know if that really helps, or his experience in some other, you know, in Alaska.
Mhm.
Does that really pertain? You know, should you have time to
Yeah.
do some research
Yeah.
on an individual, or should you maybe, you know, say, you're from this time to this time to this time, so you're not talking, I don't know. I mean, that's,
Well,
I think we can make it.
Well,
I think we
it's-
already voted on this.
It's under that sufficient time for review in
Yeah.
item 5, what
Yeah.
you're talking about now.
I think in
And-
order to avoid the open meeting laws, we should just depend upon Tess if you have questions, and
You go
Let her know.
there.
let her know, and then she can ask Fred, because Fred seems to
sure.
know, rather than, we don't want to start
Start.
collaborating and.
I think that's.
And that's
well
the
said.
concern, is all of a sudden you start talking to a couple commissioners, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden somebody persuades 2 or 3 that.
Right.
I
one
think
direction,
that's what we
so-
say, we deal directly with HR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Yep.
Keep it as objective as we can.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
That
all
was
right,
it.
Okay.
moving on. Consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. I think we got all that information in
Mhm.
advance.
Yep, it's in the package.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Commissioners' reports and comments. Fred?
Okay, I've got to find a piece of paper here. It may take me a moment or two. No, that's not it.
You're on the clock, Fred.
Probably still here. I wouldn't have had that out of my packet yet. Here we go. Okay. Jack and I attended a CETA meeting. Can't remember when that was. It was
Thursday.
Thursday, okay, thank you. At Dodge Center. And this Community Economic Development Association, I am really impressed with those people. They're doing some good things here in Houston County, and from talking with commissioners in other areas, they're impressed also. The thing that really impressed me, you know, economic development has been kind of a thing for a while, but these people understand the concept that if you're going to get economic development, you have to get a good, solid personal contact with the people that you need to get in contact with in corporations, companies that have authority. And so they are, the community, the CETA people are making it a point to get to places where corporation executives are and talking to those people. They're selecting which ones they talk to because they know what they need, and they have done their research so that they know what this area or a specific town or a specific county has to offer that particular company. And they're really doing a good job with it. I was impressed.
I would agree. I think there's some very good activity going on. I think they're reaching out to the right people, and hopefully we'll see some results down the line here. But and again, our Courtney got some high praise from other people whom I previously didn't know, and so I think we've got a good lady working for us, and hopefully the enthusiasm will follow. So, okay. Anything else, Fred?
Yeah. Been to a couple meetings involving water. I learned an awful lot about the Board of, oh dear, what is it? Bowser, Board of Water and, what is it? Soil Resources, Board of Water and Soil Resources. Yep. Went to a meeting at Orinoco a couple weeks ago, and these people from Bowser made, it was almost an hour and a half, I think, presentation from their side of the picture on what they felt things ought to look like in this one watershed, one plan thing that we've been talking about here, and how that's going to come down and how it might be funded and the organizational structure of it and all that sort of thing. And I felt that everybody there went into that presentation with a pretty open mind. And there were several people that came out of that presentation with a kind of a negative reaction. And the negative reaction was that it seemed that the state people were telling us that we needed to add another level of government in here in order to get this conservation business done right. Well, I think the fellow from Olmsted County probably put it best. He said, Olmsted County the way you're presenting this thing would then have to deal with 3 or 4 different conservation groups instead of one. Which, the one that they would be dealing with would be this Joint Powers Board, which is the meeting that I was at. And several of the more experienced people with that Joint Powers Board were in complete agreement with him. I don't know what message the state people will have taken back, but the first reaction that they had was kind of negative toward what was being said. And by the time several people got done talking, why, they were listening quite a bit more carefully. So I will talk with our local guys about this when they've had a chance to see what's coming, what's filtering back from the state level.
Was anybody from Houston County there from?
I was the only one from Houston County there. So we'll see. And I haven't had a chance to talk to Dave or Dan yet. But I will do that hopefully this week yet. I also attended a local soil and water meeting, and Jack, you'll be interested in this. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency has been investigating Pine Creek. And they have determined that we have a few problems there. Nothing major, nothing disastrous, but there's a little stuff there that shouldn't be there, and we've got a limited, what did they say? A limited variety of fish species in that creek possibly because of some issues that we have. Well, of course, that creek is primarily fed from Winona County. That creek is way at the north edge of Houston County. So how that's going to come down, I have no idea. But it's worth keeping an eye on. And Dan Wormonger is looking at it.
Okay.
And
It's
he
more,
says, I will check on that and see what's actually going on there.
okay, it's actually more relevant to Teresa. Yeah, they've been throwing things in that creek.
I saw a trout fisherman down there last week, though, when trout season opened, so.
Was he catching anything?
Well, he hadn't when I went by yet, but he claims he has, so.
Okay.
But it's
That's
out
a good
today
thing.
because of all
Yeah,
the
she said it
rain.
went over the banks.
Oh, went
No.
over the banks.
Yeah. Anything else, Fred?
Oh, yeah, I'm not. Boredom will offset, hopefully. I've started working on trying to figure out a different budget process or an enhanced budget process, and it's considerably more complicated than I thought it was going to be, and that's probably a good thing. And if I can find the correct piece of paper here that will give me the right acronym, ROG, Results-Oriented Government, there we go. Results-Oriented Government is theoretically, at least according to some people, the way to go. There is a county in California that claims that by using this results-oriented government method of budgeting, they have been able to save, I don't even want to quote the number because I don't believe it, but they're talking over 30% by using this results-oriented government model. I don't know what they had before. But it obviously wasn't very good. Now, my question to this group is, and of course Teresa's on the
Finance?
Finance Committee and on the meeting with the department heads. And of course, this kind of thing would involve department heads a lot, and it would involve the finance committee. And I'm wondering what kind of reporting back the full board wants. I personally don't want to stick my neck out completely on this thing without keeping the board totally informed on what we're doing. And do you want some sort of every meeting report on this? Do you want a once a month report on where we're at with it? But if we're going to do
Well,
this, it's going to
okay,
require
well-
some work.
Well, when you're saying where we're at this point, this is your idea? I mean, we're not talking about a committee,
I'm
but,
sort of going out on
Okay.
a limb here on
Okay.
my own, looking for
well, I guess,
hopefully a budget process that's going to work better for us.
I guess I would think that maybe when you get things fleshed out some, that we all get a chance to look at it and see exactly what, because I don't want to get the department heads all in a tizzy, or, you know, I mean, you know, I think any time where there's potential for improvement, we should look at it, but I would caution to not, you know, let rumors start flying that we're suddenly going to revise everything without getting an idea what we're talking about.
The basic thing is that I have to know a lot more about it other than the first 2 pages of some county spiel on it.
Right.
And then I've read some more things about the concept. And the idea is for each department to be able to document what they are really trying to accomplish within their department. And then, okay, how do we get there?
Okay.
That's the basic concept. Fleshed out? No,
Yeah,
nowhere near.
we'll work it up, and, you know, and I'd be careful with a California county, because they might be seceding anyhow, so.
Well, yeah, either that or the next earthquake will take them into the ocean, whichever you
okay.
prefer.
All right, anything else, Brett?
Hey, guess what? I'm done.
No, the Fred Arnold Hour, okay. Teresa?
I had a workforce development meeting last Thursday in Rochester, and there again, they're all waiting on the legislator to see on funding, and where they're gonna go is whether there's gonna be enough to, whether there's gonna be a shutdown, what's gonna happen. So everything's kind of on hold, waiting for the budget process to get done. I went to a La Crescent Township meeting, and they were working on their fees for their zoning, and they basically didn't change anything, and they follow the county very closely on that as far as regulations. And I wanted to bring up, and I think everybody saw the notice for the District 9 meeting. It's June 5th, from 8 to 12 in Olmsted County at the Community Service Building.
Okay,
So
all
I'm
right.
just saying that, remember the very first time I got elected, I went to the one we hosted in Caledonia, and for some reason, nobody else was there but me.
Yeah, I think
So-
we had the dates mixed up, or there's some deal, and Teresa's like, I have to get a report myself.
So now I
myself.
remind everybody. Yes, that's got me going on that, so. That's all I had.
Scott?
Not much. I've met with Brian a few times at the county highway department, and we've been throwing a few plans back and forth just to try to come up with some square footage, and we're a little ways apart, but we're working on something that we could hopefully have some options to bring in front of the board to say, you know, now look at it, how many square feet, what do we need to be, you know, from here to here, at least, you know. This is what some people say they need, this is what, yep, let's make some decisions and get it to a size. So I've been back and forth with Brian a few times. That's all I have to share.
Okay.
One of the things I was going to bring up kind of already got filtered out. I got a call from one of the commissioners in Winona County asking about the agenda packets. They said the agenda's online, but they can't find the supporting documents to go with it. And I think, Char, you said you were going to start putting that out now for the press. So that got alleviated anyway, so that was no big deal. But I just said I'd bring it up at the board meeting to make sure that somebody says, oh, well, here's where it is, and then we have the supporting documents, but nobody else sees it. So anyway, that kind of got flushed out. And then the other thing, I wrote a note because, Scott, I meant to call you twice, and I just kept forgetting, or I'd be in bad position with the cell phones, and I was like, oh, I'll call them later. When you're talking about the highway department building, one of the things I wanted to bring up at the board, and I'll talk to Scott a little bit more about it, but now looking at the highway building, obviously now is a good time, like any, when you're moving, doing whatever, to go through inventory and clean stuff out. A couple of things that I was looking at, I had talked to Brian and Sheila a while ago about it. We have an awful lot of like cattle passes and things that kind of aren't being used and relevant anymore. And I know Sheila said that they've had a lot of those culverts, those cattle passes, since before she was even around, and they're just kind of sitting there. Sometimes we sell them to the townships and do whatever. Looking at things like that, we've got more than what we probably need, and if a township needs something, we can always, they can go and buy new. But that was one of the things I just wanted to kind of point out, when looking at things, we need to kind of go through some of the things that have been sitting there that maybe we don't need or whatever, and kind of get that. The other thing too is when looking like at equipment, obviously when it comes to budget time, which is just around the corner, looking at different lease programs and other options when going forward to try and streamline some things and get it some more. We used to be way back in the day on some lease programs. We got off of some of them. There's been some really good programs that come around. We lease the tractors right now. We've got a couple other just looking at are those other options when that stuff comes. So kind of deals with budgeting and highway department building and new construction.
I did talk to Brian. The cattle passes are being slowly taken out. They're selling them basically for the cost of removal. They'll haul them to the townships that want them, and just for trucking, for reimbursement costs of the person and the time and stuff. So you said, they're at the point where we'll never use them. They're actually of inferior size now for what we put in. So, so he's working on trying to eliminate so we can see exactly more or closer what we need, how much space is there compared to what's just storage.
Right.
Something I'd like everybody to think about is, and maybe talk to Brian about, the whole keeping of the old plans, which sounds like it has to be done, but something to look at within our departments someplace, where he's looking at, it's a huge vault area that's needed to house all this, which, would take up considerable square footage of a new building. Do we have anything existing? Let's brainstorm on that a little bit. That's one thing that maybe could be, shrunk. There's a few things that I think could be shrunk if we did things right.
Well, and you bring up a good point too, looking at, right now we do some of the stuff downstairs in the Meyer Furniture Building, but, even not saying that this is what it's going to be, but brainstorming, like the old commissioner room, could that be turned into a vault, with locked doors and, just things like that.
Right.
That, we don't really use
just to banter it around and put it out there to everybody that, if someone's got a good idea for this, that we wouldn't have to build a whole brand new vault under a brand new roof with brand new floor, and the whole works. And and I got to flesh it out a little more with Brian. Is how often, how much access? It sounds like there is ways. Our Bev is getting a lot of stuff put on. There's a firm coming in to keep the documents. How much of that is available? Is it worth it? And so that you wouldn't have to retrieve the old stuff, you can retrieve the document. I don't know. Just seems like a lot of new area. That's one way to look heavily at. There's a few things like that we're working on.
Good.
Well, and last thing too, when you're talking about like those cattle passes, I talked to Brian too about having a timeline. It seems like if we don't put a timeline, nothing gets done and it stays. As far as letting the townships know, hey, if you want them, come get them. We'll put whatever we have up on the county auction if somebody wants to buy them. The rest are gonna get crushed. Versus, I just don't want to see all this in 10 years from now. It's like, well, we sold some 10 years ago and they're still here. Let's, move on it a little bit and kind of clean some things up and tidy up around there and get a good idea of what we really do need. And
Something else I'd like to go forward with is talk to Brian and see about a water study. Whose water?
You mean as far as runoff or usage?
Well, we're gonna eventually need a retention area, and, but who all's water are we retaining?
You mean as far as?
Meaning the city of Caledonia has some in there.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yep. Who all's involved with this basically watershed, and how much area, we're eventually gonna need a study to decide, how much area we're gonna need and stuff for retention.
Well, here's one other thing. I know we gotta get going here, but if the fairgrounds is putting in that other building, is there a way you can combine a retention area for the?
We've looked at that, and the basic roof area, when buildings are eliminated and new building is in, the basic roof area draining that way is going to be awfully close to the same.
Right, but it's still gonna shed in the same location, is my understanding, that, we shouldn't be changing a runoff area or changing much for amount of runoff.
Did we move on that lease?
No, because the county staff is not done with it yet.
Okay.
And the Fair Board, of course, has to look at it after they finish it to make sure they're okay with it. We will probably have that next week, I'm guessing.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, nothing else.
All right. Well, as Fred mentioned, I was at that EDA regional meeting also, and at a future meeting now, I'm going to have Courtney put together some things that are actually happening in Houston County that people may not even be aware of. There's some very good things that have gone on recently and are planned to happen in the near future, and I think people find it encouraging and interesting. I left that meeting and went back to Rochester to the SMART bicycle meeting, and again, it's pretty amazing how much is actually done in the region trail-wise and what's planned, and of course, all of it which depends on funding. But the DNR rep there thought that there's a stretch on Shore Acres and La Crescent that would help connect to La Crosse by the West Channel Bridge. And I was told it was happening this summer. He said that he didn't think the funding would happen until 2020. So then I went back, and my neighbor happens to be the head of the planning commission, and no, it's going to be this summer. So hopefully it will.
It's a bike trail, correct?
Yeah, it'll be a nice addition. And SEMCAC told me that they are now going to have the senior dinners, if they haven't already, at the school, at the high school, which they were quite pleased with that arrangement. And
it's not the elementary, actually.
is it the elementary? I'm sorry, Craig. Okay.
I think it's June 1st.
June 1st is okay, but there was some, flux there as to what to do and how to do it with enough room, parking, and so forth. So this seemed to be a good thing. And tomorrow there's a dedication of the new trail. The new I-90 bridge north of La Crescent. There always was a bike trail to Dresbach there. It's been greatly improved, and it's being dedicated tomorrow. And I've been asked to say a few words, so I've got it down to an hour. So if you happen to be around, but no, it'd be, if you're not doing anything, it might be interesting to.
Tomorrow when?
At 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Okay, and you're going to be first on the agenda. So then if we come about 5 minutes to 11, we're good, right?
There it is. Yeah.
Where is it?
It's in Dresbach at the end of the the trail.
Right at the end of
Yeah.
the trail there?
Yeah, but if you see, there's a new bridge. MinDOT, when, there's quite a battle, I guess you could say, about funding for a bike trail when the bridge was first proposed, and it wasn't included in that, but MinDOT's kind of stepped up, and it's, I think it's going to be a nice addition, so. Okay, anything else? If not, I would, any closing public comment? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good evening, stay dry.